told who to follow and not to follow. Like, it's so simple. Like, if they're
Yeah,
wearing yellow, like,
yeah. No, I feel yeah. I'm a big fan of underdogs. So I mean, that's kind of Australian of me, innit?
on today's show, we have Travis Blackley, who at 18 entered the Major League Baseball draft, went on to make his debut in 2004, becoming the 18th Australian to play in the major leagues. Welcome to the show, Travis.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
How you going? 18. That's young to enter the draft because you entered in 2000. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I signed out of high school. It wasn't exactly the draft. We don't. You don't get drafted out of Australia. At least you didn't when I was younger. I don't think you do. It was a non-draft free agent. If you go to college or in America, do JUCO or something like that, then you can go in the draft. But I signed out of a World Cup, under-19 World Cup in Canada, where the Mariners were checking out a fella named Sin-Soo Choo, and I was pitching against Korea at the time, and that's how they saw me, and I signed pretty much the same time as he did.
Wow, that's awesome. But how do you get into baseball, like especially as an Australian? It's not soccer or rugby or cricket.
Yeah, no, I grew up a swimmer and did a little aths and like nippers and stuff as well. But swimming was pretty much what I did. And then my younger brother started playing t-ball, and I wanted to play. I'd played it in primary school and I was pretty good at it, but I was like, oh, I want to give it a crack. And I was actually too old to play it when I decided to start. So I had to jump straight into baseball. Probably while I was pretty average when I started playing the game. You wouldn't have picked me out as a 12-year-old and said, oh, that kid's good. I was not that good. Just a lot of time, a lot of hard work and effort to get where I was.
So why did you decide to stick with it? Is it because of your brother?
I think baseball was the first sport that really challenged me to be good at. I'd always played any sport. I'd played football, cricket, whatever. I wasn't the best, but I was always pretty handy at it. I wasn't, you're in the schoolyard. I was never the last one picked. Not always, the first, but, always pretty good at whatever sport I tried. But baseball was infuriating as a young age that I was just terrible at it. And that really drove me to be better at it, I think, and not just that. I think anyone that really knows baseball and gets into it, the bug bites you, and you just, I wish more Australians would get into it. Honestly, it's a really fun sport. It's fast paced at times, even though it can seem slow. If you're out in the field, it can feel very fast paced.
Well, I played cricket, so for me, baseball is a fast cricket. But do you reckon cricket takes away from baseball?
Oh, 100%. I mean,
is that why it's not big? Because like in America, there's no cricket, but there's baseball.
It's not that cricket means to. Cricket's just being cricket, and kids love and follow cricket and want to be, wear the baggy green one day. As unrealistic as that is for some kids, because is there 11 spots to be, in the whole of Australia? You got 11 out of 25 million. And baseball, you got 30 teams at the top level, and they all got 40-man rosters, or 25-man on the big league, or 26 now, I think. But there's just a lot more opportunity if you can get there.
Yeah.
Like the easy part, believe it or not, is getting signed. The hard part is staying in the big leagues. Once you get to the big leagues, it's literally you've got thousands of people trying to take your job from behind you. So you've got to, that's the hardest part, is staying good and consistent enough to keep your job. And that's why my career was very up and down. I probably only had a 2.5 year span of where I just kept that level going. But other than that, man, so someone like Liam Hendricks, what he's doing right now, that is phenomenal. Like, he's just setting the bar for everyone else behind him,
Yeah, it's great to see. But how is it? I don't know, it's just mind-boggling for me that the easiest part is getting into. Is that because of the hunger, or there's just that many opportunities or scouts and positions available for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's actually probably a little harder now. Now that they've Major League Baseball's canned like 40 minor league teams, organizations don't have that 400 players in their group now. They're probably down to like 280 or something. So each team's lost maybe around 100 players, we'll say. So, that's 3,000 jobs that over the entire major league system that's gone. So, and now the draft went from 50 rounds to 20 rounds. Like, that's 30 kids, for 50 rounds. That's crazy. How many kids aren't going to get a job that have to find a different way to get into the show? So it has made it a little harder now. But when in relative terms of what's harder, staying in the big leagues or getting there is way easier than staying.
Wow, that's still crazy to me.
Because you figure like getting there is one hurdle, and then you've just got a bigger one there. Soon as you've reached that first goal, it's nowhere near ready. You've got to keep going even harder and harder.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same in cricket. You break into that top 11, you're under the magnifying glass to keep your job, until you've established yourself and you're, a household name, then you're going to keep your job and probably even keep it while you're struggling because they know how good you can be. Yeah. But until you're that in baseball, you really are grasping with everything you got to try and hold on until you get that big contract, which is 6 years in, you become, ready to get that first major league massive contract, that big 30 million a year or whatever it is, 300 million over 10 years. That comes from your body of work over 6 years before that. Unless you're a superstar like Mike Trout, who 2 years in, they're like, this guy is so good. We want to lock him up now. And that's the 1% of the 1%. That's insane.
Well, there's literally one.
Yeah. Well, there's a few guys like him, There's a few guys. Bryce Harper was one like him, even though he's nowhere near Trout's level. Tatis, just these young Soto that came up and killed it. Like there's a lot of really good players that have done that.
And Ronald Lacuna, how come? Because was he playing for Atlanta?
Yeah, he did his knee. I think catching a ball in like the right field corner on the warning track, like not long before the end of the season, maybe like a month before the end of the season. And the Braves weren't even looking like making the playoffs when that happened. And wow, did they just take off after he went down? It was like they all thought, I got to put in a little bit more to make up for missing out on him. Yeah. And a few key acquisitions at the trade deadline. Like I think they picked up 4 or 5 outfielders.
Wow. Yeah.
And they're all going off, your Jock Petersons, who was the other one they got? Eddie Rosario. I mean, won the MVP of the NLCS. That dude came from the Twins and they weren't even using him. He was hurt actually when they got him.
Bloody hell.
So they picked up a guy that was already on the shelf, got him back to healthy, and then bang, he was that good.
That's crazy. Like just doing a bit of research for this and looking at your career and also just from TV and whatnot, just the amount of moving pieces, because it doesn't seem like there's that many people that will hold a spot at one club for a career. What's it like to be moved around? Especially when you're trying to make teammates and
I'm the guy to ask. I've been on so many bloody teams,
But how is that though? Because that's probably more common than.
Yeah, it's not so common to do what I did. I didn't play on the same team back-to-back years since 2007. So I went 2001 to 2007 with the Seattle Mariners. So I had 6 years in a row with the same team. I thought that was all I was going to ever be with. And then the ride began. They traded me to San Francisco. The next year I got Rule 5 by the Phillies. The year after that, I signed a free agent deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Then I signed with the Mets, but that didn't last more than like 2 months. They tried to make me a sidearm, like submarine knuckle scraper, and it didn't work out. Then the Oakland A's picked me up after a stint in Mexico. And then, I went to Korea, came back to the Giants. And then that was when the big leagues kind of really kicked off. Even though I'd been there a few times before, it was, Giants, then the A's, then the Astros, then the Rangers, and over 2.5 years. And then I went to Japan. And then it kind of went downhill after that.
What causes that downhill?
Age was a big part of it. I think, I was 34. It gets a little harder to just day in, day out, being ready to be able to pitch, getting your body ready to pitch. It's such a long grind of a season, 162 games. You can tell when you're in your early mid 30s, you can really start to tell. So that's why someone like Charlie Morton, who's like 40, 41, or Pujols, who's, what is he, 45, but he's actually like probably 50, 51. Yeah. I think that really happened. I think that really happened when September 11 happened. All of the, Dominicans and Venezuelans, everyone had to go back to their country. And when they came back in, they did all that hardcore checks on everyone. And, I played with a few guys that happened to be 6, 7 years older than what they were actually stated in the program.
So how does that happen? Because they've been sent back, they had to submit new papers?
It's there in those Latin countries, you can just make up your age when you come over, like, I don't know. It's like,
they just want to feel 23 again.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it like third world, but like there's just not as much. It's not like a Western country where, everything is like online or in their own system. Like they've got all your details. It's not like that over there. And they I think teams help facilitate it. Like, oh, this kid's really good, but he's like 24. Let's bring him over as a 19-year-old instead,
Yeah. I mean, that would make you more lucrative as a player. Like a 34-year-old is not as lucrative as a 26-year-old. So 100%. That would, I mean, if you could do that as a player, like I could get an extra big contract here.
Oh, I played with a guy my first year. I won't forget his written name that I had him as. His name was Eduardo Figueroa. He was apparently 19 at the time, and he had silver chest hairs.
Wow.
Like, come on. And then I ran into him maybe 6 years later, and he was a pitcher now. He was an outfielder then. He was a pitcher going by a totally different name. Same dude. Totally different name. Like he got found out, and his age now was much older. He was like in his mid-30s.
Wow.
Yeah. You don't see it too often, but if you're good enough, they'll figure out a way to get you in there.
That's creative. I like it.
Get the best players playing no matter what.
Yeah.
I was listening to a book, an audio book, by Bob Tewksbury, 90% Mental. He's a mental skills coach, former player, pitcher, I believe. And I think he worked with the Giants and I think Red Sox. But by listening to the book, just hearing him talk about the mental aspect of baseball and pitching, especially, like being on the mound, thinking, this is what the batter's thinking. This is what I'm like, this mental game. If you do this, if I do this, and also just visualization. How much of that was going on with you?
Big advocate for that. I do a lot of coaching now, and I tell my kids that they're going to lose more games between the ears than they're going to lose with their stuff. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are, you've got to be. And evident in the game today, you look at someone like Luke Jackson with the Braves, right? He's had a pretty average to below average for his standards. Like, he had under a 2 ERA on the year, but he's getting waffled in the playoffs. Like, how does that happen? And, some people are just cut out for that situation where everything's on the line. I like to think I was one of those guys. I really enjoyed being like almost having that feeling of fear creep in, and instead of letting it overtake you, leaning into it and just, giving it all up, throwing it all out there and just seeing what happens. Because if you pitch scared, you can't, and you walk people, you can't defend a walk.
Yeah.
And you just look very subpar when you're walking because of, you can just read fear on somebody's face when they're like that. So I'm a big advocate on that. And I would say that kind of, I have heard that name you mentioned, the writer of that book, but I have never met him at all.
Yeah.
But the Giants were the first team in 2012 in spring training where they introduced a mental coach. And really, that was the first time I ever really started thinking that way, and learning.
Was it something techniques that you thought about prior, but was never sort of named, or
yeah,
just
100%, 100%. And where baseball players are very superstitious. I'm less now that I'm out of the game, but we'll sit in the same seat, we'll place our glove down the same way, we'll have the same thing. I get an out, I walk around the same way, pick up the rosin bag, everything's got to be the same, because I don't understand why, but that's just what helps us, be like that. But that was something that I always did.
Is it a comfort or familiarity?
Yeah, I think it's comfort. It helps your confidence, I think. Sorry, little head popping out. Watch out, baby.
That's right.
But yeah, it's definitely helps your confidence when your memory of doing well is associated with what you did in order to be there. It's almost like OCD, I'd imagine, like a very mild version of it. And it's the same when you're working between your starts, like your routine that you have, your however it's written up. It's like, if you did it to a T and then pitch really well, I'm going to do it exactly the same way because I want the same result. And if I get lazy and take a day off and then I suck, then I put it down to that day that I didn't decide to do it. How do
you then keep track if that leads to a bad day? Do you then diarize and look back and go, okay, well, this fell short on this day. do we tweak this, or is that a process that you're looking at as well?
It's funny. I never really kept diaries on that. I kept it more on my opposition. Like I faced a guy and how I got him out, or how he smoked me. Like I got to know, I got to keep that mental, like, so when next time I face this guy, whether it's that team or another team, I can go back and look and find him and see what he liked, what he didn't like. So there's preparation on that front with the diary, but as far as like jotting down my feelings in a certain situation, never really did that. I guess I used my laying in bed the night before I'm pitching. That I always had this thing where sometimes I would fall asleep before I got done, but I would always pitch a perfect game in my head before. And quite often I wouldn't even throw a ball. You know, I'm just like hitting my spot. Every single one I want, I'm being perfect. And I'm just smoking these guys in my like, while I'm laying in bed.
Visualizing.
Sometimes I'm knackered off all asleep in the third inning, like I'm down, and then I wake up, I'm ready to pitch. But it also, by pitching that game, when I'm out on the mound the next day, I can just draw back to what I was thinking about how the way I'm going to attack these hitters and go at them with what I've already used and I've seen as success in my laying in bed, you know, visualizing it.
Yeah. So does it help as well, knowing like who you'll be up against, and then you're using what you've diarized about this hitter and go, okay, he falls short here, or he smoked me this. So then you're tweaking that. So then in the third innings, you're doing this. In the sixth, you're doing this. If you get to,
oh yeah, like 100%. Yeah, I definitely will use because you don't want to pitch the same guy the same way every time. So you've got to also make changes to how you attack somebody. And quite often there's a saying in pitching, get in a rhythm so you can break it. So we get in a rhythm of what we're doing. The hitter starts to think they're on time with you, and then you break it. So, you know, first at bat, say you go double up, heater, breaking ball in the dirt, they strike out. Well, this time we go heater, let's go heater up. This time he's going to see that, think curveballs up in the zone and chase out the zone up. Now that's perfect world, 3 pitch, 3 out. It's going to change if you go 3-2, they foul off a couple of tough pitches. But generally, you know, when you're in those kind of counts and situations, you got to trust that you can locate a pitch where they can't do damage. They might get a single, but they're not going to not in their nitro zone. They're not somewhere where they can take you 500 feet. So you got to kind of, game management is a big part of it, you know? So it helped. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so like when you are in that game management phase, or you're pitching scared almost, how are you trying to bring it back into your control, find your rhythm again?
Rhythm for me, like when you slow the game down, you can go too far. You can really go too far, and you don't want to be too slow because your fielders start on their heels. You want to keep the game moving quick. If you're walking dudes and like having really long at bats, hitters or the position players they're not ready for the next ball hit at them. Not as much. The great ones are, because they're just like that. But your average player is going to drop back on their heels and probably miss a ball by, you know, one that they would have got had you been in good rhythm. So rhythm really for me, maybe compacting up my mechanics a little bit. So instead of being long and try and gather more, I will try and stay more compact with my mechanics, and that way I'll be able to find the zone a little quicker. But yeah, I'm forgetting some things, but there's heaps of things in the moment where I don't have to think about doing it. My brain is seasoned to do that. I just trained it so long to do it. You know, 17 years of pitching, probably 3,000 innings. It's hard to forget sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's good when I'm helping these young kids. I see a lot of these like 17, 18-year-olds pitching, and I can see just what I was like. And you try and give them that insight and that help. And sometimes they can take it, but other times it's like, man, way over their head. They until they experience the failure themselves, they're not going to be able to make the adjustment. So
is there anything that, like, when you're teaching these 17, 18-year-olds, like, if they just got this, that'd be good? Is there one or two things that you see, and maybe it's not in terms of technical or anything like that, but it's like, you're not putting in hours, you're there skill wise, your trajectory, like, as talent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's heaps of kids, and everyone's different. You know, some kids maybe, you know, they get to their 0-2 count real easy, but then they mess around trying to get the strikeout instead of, you know, I'd like to teach the kids, like, go for your 0-2 strikeout, go for it there. in 1-2, if you're feeling real good, try for it 1-2. But as soon as you get to 2-2, you're going straight back to contact. You're not looking for the strikeout. You're trying to get an out on that pitch. Because if you go to 3-2, 95% chance it's going to be a fastball and the hitter knows it. So, trying to, in that 2-2 count, they might be still looking fastball, but they're not 100% sure. They're not like as sure as they would be in a 3-2 count. So just those little things, especially at the kids level, at the 17, 18-year-old level, no one's throwing backdoor breaking balls, 3-2 count. Like nobody's doing that. If they do, hey, tip your cap to them,
So is that a confidence thing as well? That they don't have like a fastball on the 3-2 is a lot easier to predict than someone having the confidence to try something else.
I think it is confidence. It's some of these kids don't need any help being confident, but then when they're out on the mound and they're in that spot, they're in that moment, it's like they don't want to give up a hit. So they pitch away from contact. They want to get the swing and miss. Well, 3-2, we can't afford to miss for a ball 3-2. So really just trusting your stuff and locating the pitch down away. I mean, if you make a good fastball down away as good as it could be, not many hitters can really do much with that. Not much. I mean, today's game, every now and again you'll see someone go deep on that pitch, but they almost have to sell out for that location to hit it out. It's not like they're looking in, oh, it's away, and I go and leave the yard. That doesn't happen. It's these hitters are smart, as much as they don't look smart that often with all the strikeouts today. That's just because pitching has just become so much about swing and miss and less about contact. Yet until you pitch with a major league field behind you, like there's no safer feeling than having some of these guys in the field making these unbelievable plays that you see on SportsCenter top 10. And you're like, holy moly, I haven't had anyone roll a home run before, let alone 2 in this game. It doesn't happen. So, it's the confidence thing. And also tell the kids, when kids make an error behind you, instead of like, I know they're not trying to show them up, but instead of like showing distaste or like, that they feel like, oh no, I should be out of this jam right now, is turn around, get the ball back off your shortstop who just booted it and say, I'm going to get you the next one. That's how, because then that shortstop feels like, man, he's got confidence in me. I messed up and he's still got confidence in me.
How do you teach that in other people? Like that's because that's so crucial, being able to pick each other up, even just like in a mate sense. If a mate's had a bad day, like pick a mate up. Exactly.
I just hammer it home. I just tell them like, try it. Because you're going to have plenty of errors behind you as a kid. These kids are learning as well behind you in the field. Some of them are playing shortstop and they've never been a shortstop before. It's just they're the most athletic kid on the team. So coach puts him at shortstop. It's about, and that kid, he's not going to, if you don't do that, that kid isn't going to, he's going to be hesitant or a little bit, hold back a little bit because he doesn't want to make another mistake. So by giving him that sense of like, hey, I trust you, buddy, I'll get you another
safety net.
He might even lay out for a ball and make a screaming play. You know what I mean? And you can make him better by doing that. So I really try and bring that home with the kids that I'm coaching, and I think it's starting to work. I'm starting to get a lot of feedback that from their parents especially, that they're really enjoying watching their son find confidence, and a lot of them have said like, man, my kid has changed for the good in a really good way. And
wow,
that's something that I didn't foresee as a player, being proud to be able to do that kind of thing. But now I enjoy coaching more than I enjoy actually playing, or pitching for that matter. Like I just, pitching for me these days, I don't get, the heart rate doesn't go. I don't feel nervous. And that's a really scary feeling, to not feel nervous. I want to feel nervous. I want to have the bubble guts before a game real bad. Because if I don't, obviously I don't care enough. You know what I mean? I can't fake it. I'm not like, I can't not like
yeah. That. But is that, because that sort of sounds like a good thing, but also sounds like a bad thing. Because not being nervous sounds like you're in control as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm talking more so like it's like if I were to be pitching in the major leagues today, hell yeah, I'd be nervous. I mean, there's a different vibe when there's 50,000 people there and you're on TV in front of millions. I'm talking about just chilling in club ball with like 30 people there, or ABL with like 300 people there. It doesn't get me the juices flowing like it did until the playoffs. Once it's a playoff atmosphere, then we can start talking. But yeah, I've really got to try and jack myself up for these games. And then I take, kind of like Grant Balfour kind of style, where I don't scream obscenities into my glove like he did, but kind of like breathing very hard in and out to try and jack my heart rate up before I go out to pitch. That is something I need to do, because otherwise I'll pitch at 90 beats per minute, whatever you do at really low impact work. And it doesn't, and I'll pitch with much better stuff at 130, 150, where it's got the sting on the ball. It's got that life, that snap. It doesn't have that at 90 heartbeat. It's like throwing a bullpen. It's like rolling it over. It's not the same.
So when you've got 50,000 people, TV lights, TV cameras, everyone there, is it easy to get out of yourself and start to think more about the fans? How do you bring yourself back in when you were on TV?
I don't think I've ever experienced that too much. I got good advice early on as a youngster. I mean, I made my debut as a 21-year-old in the big leagues, and I was still a kid. I was not mentally ready for that. I was told, like, when the first time you pitch in front of that kind of a crowd is go and stand out in front of it before you need to be out there. Go get the atmosphere, soak it in, so that when you're coming out of the bullpen to make your first outing, you're not like wrapped up in the moment. You got to get that. There's an energy at the field, and you can feel it with other sports too, but baseball, especially, you can feel it watching it on TV in the playoffs. You can just feel that energy. And when you come out of the bullpen, I mean, there have been times where I felt almost like lightheaded when I've run all the way across the field to the mound, just because I'm so jacked up from it. And, the first few warm-up pitches, I'm bouncing them or throwing one off the back net, and it takes a second. But I think one thing that helped me is I used to really bring my hat down low, and I hold my glove right up here. So I'm basically creating like this tunnel vision, and I don't see the catcher from here up. I'm literally seeing the hands only. I'm not seeing the hitter. I'm not seeing the umpire. I'm trying to make my focal point as small as possible. Aim small, miss small, right? So trying to keep myself in there and not let my eyes get up and see all of the fans and all of the craziness going on.
That'd be fucking hard though. Like there's a lot of noise.
It really is. And well, that's the cool thing about having a lot of people is you can't pick one voice out. It's just noise. Right? When there's 300 people there and you got that one drunk guy just yelling out, "Hey, you're a bum." That guy, he could start wearing on you after a while, especially when they start Googling you and getting into your family and history, and that can be a little off-putting at times. But I don't know, I kind of always like to use that too. If somebody was like getting into me, it always made me like arc up and try and like, all right, I'm gonna show you, kid. Like I'm a,
chip on your shoulder.
I found the best way that teams that always beat me were the ones that never got me arced up, the ones that played the game and didn't start any nonsense, didn't like chirp at me from the dugout, the kill you softly.
Yeah, that's the scary one.
Yeah, they're the ones that kind of made it tough. You come up against a bunch of guys that are rah, rah, rah and yelling at you from the dugout. You're just playing with fire. I'm going to start getting better because, I want to get you out even more now. Like you've just created an enemy. So at least on the field between the lines. So
for sure. How, when they were trying to kill you softly, would you try and do anything to provoke them?
Yeah, occasionally. No, not hit. I'd never really try to hit anyone intentionally, but buzz in the tower every now and again, trying to give them a nice clean shave off the chin. That would be something that you can't really do it anymore. They've changed the game a lot. You can't throw at people. You can't, which is fair enough. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to take someone's life. Which is quite possible. You hit someone in the face, in the head, you can really do some damage. But often you don't have to throw it here or I'll use this for the side. You have to throw it right next to them because as they're hitting, they're going to lean out into it. So you've only got to be between the batter's box and the plate up high enough, and they'll eventually feel like it's coming at them because they're going to move in towards the ball and then be backed up. So there's kind of if you're trying to hit someone, you throw behind them, you throw at the back because they'll step back into it.
True.
Just for pointers for anyone that's trying to hit kids, but don't hit me, kids.
So, but like also in that instance, if you do hit someone, it's a walk or you're throwing a strike. So like, how worth it is it to like create an enemy for yourself to like turn it into a fight?
Yeah. Well, it does one thing. If the other team hates you too, I find hitters start to. There are some guys you don't want to be like that with, and if I use that in the major leagues, like who can I think of right now? That's just some guy that plays really well when he's arced up, like a Juan Soto, right? You don't want to mess with that guy. When he gets mad and whatever, he starts to get you a little bit, but they start to grip the bat tighter instead of, and you can't do anything when you're tense, right? So if they do get angry, they're starting to like really grip that bat. Like now they're going to be a little bit light, a little bit longer swing, and that's how you can beat them, like as a youngster, I used to get a foul ball or a swing and miss, walk halfway up to get the ball and then spit on the ground at them. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let's go. And then now I'm getting in their head. Now they want to like grip that bat. Now they want to hurt me. They don't want to hit the ball. They want to hurt me. And so that just kind of like was the mental warfare that you had to play. But today's game's different. The hitters are very protected. You can't clean up any catchers anymore. You can't slide late into second. Like all that stuff's been taken out of the game. Ruined it for me personally. I think the game was good the way it was. Hard-nosed, it kept everyone honest and we policed the game ourselves. Now a hitter can go and pimp a home run and show off and just really give it to the pitcher. And I mean, it's the old school in me. I kind of played through both the old school and into the new school. So, but I felt like you earn your respect in the old school. The new school, there's very little respect going around. So, it might be fun for the average fan to see, these hitters run up the baseline and take a selfie before they touch first base, but that's not in the spirit of, and that I don't know if you know that, but that's Marcell Ozuna. That was his key thing. And like, look at him now, he's like in jail or something. So I just think, respect goes a long way. That was something that I felt like I had to do. I was always the youngest dude on my team. Like I got called up with the Mariners as a 21-year-old and my team was old. Like I had some names like Edgar Martinez and bloody Jay Buhner and oh man, who was Brett Boone, Ichiro Suzuki, but he wasn't even that old yet. Like some really old dudes. Like I'm talking some of them in the 40s.
That'd be perfect for you. Like as a young player coming through, there must be so much to learn.
Yeah, yes and no. I didn't feel like I could be myself. I'm quite a chatty guy, as you've probably already seen. I'm up, and I'm in the locker room. But when I got up there as a 21-year-old, I didn't want to piss anyone off. I had to like kept in my own like chair. I spoke when spoken to. I didn't like play my music in the clubhouse because I listened to some pretty rough stuff, some heavy metal stuff that most don't like over there. And so I wasn't being myself, and I think I pitched like it when I was 21. So when I brought it back the second time or the third time, when I come up with the Giants, so I had some good friends of mine that were, peers of mine that were my age that they said, just be yourself. We'll accept you for who you are, be yourself. And then I felt like I played a lot better for it. That's
like being yourself. Everyone says that. Like, how do you do that though? And so, even I think like everyone says be yourself just in every walk of life for Sam from Murwillumbah. I don't even know. I made up another. Like I said Newcastle last time.
Getting out of your own head just to not worry so much about how you're perceived. Yeah. That's like it's a huge thing because that's when you're actually truly free. But it seems like this baseball, it's so much a mental game, and for 168 games in a year. What did you do to like get away from it during the season, or did you even get an opportunity to mentally take a break, or was it always just full on focused in on visualizing the next game and the game? Did you ever get a chance to have a break?
I think being a starting pitcher gave me a lot of break because I was on a 5-day rotation. I'd have 4 days to have a break. Now, I would do my work to a T and then I'd get to watch the games, but I'd find those games is where I get my information. And I also had any video you needed, I could just look it up and see, maybe I hadn't faced a guy before. I'm facing Albert Pujols. I haven't faced a guy before. I go and I'll try and figure out a pitcher that I feel like I am as closely matched to, and I'll go see how that guy did against Albert Pujols. What did he throw against Albert Pujols? Then I can get a bit of an idea of what I'm going to go use to attack Albert when he gets in the box. So That's just the preparation part, but you are just trying to relax, especially the day after you pitch. That's the best day to relax. You get the hardest work you've got to do when you get to the field, but once you're done and the game's on, it's just sit back and enjoy a baseball game. And, you know, that's your decompression. And then when you get home, video games was big for me. Like, I played a lot of video games in my downtime.
And you're streaming
my wife. Sorry?
Right? Are you streaming at the moment?
No, I haven't been streaming. I've got my family out here. I don't have really the time or, you know, to do that kind of thing in a 2-bedroom apartment. Doing that with kids sleeping next door is not easy. So, but I don't think my wife understood how much I played video games, because when I met her, it was all about every moment I had, we were spending together, and video games took a side. But whenever we weren't together and I'm on the road or I'm in another country playing, video games help get me through it. And it was another way to keep in touch with family and for friends from back in Australia, you know, playing online with them. It's like having a phone call, but you're playing video games too. It was just a really good way to do it for me. And it kept me in my hotel room instead of going out to bars and drinking or, you know, doing anything crazy. So yeah, it was big for, I think, to help my career go as long as it did. I think video games were key.
I love that.
Honestly.
That's awesome.
I don't think you hear that much, but it makes the most sense in the world. It keeps you out of like any position that's going to make you into any kind of trouble. It's so good.
Good luck getting injured.
It does. And if you're a competitor, like you want to win games, it's keeping you competitive. Call of Duty, you're trying to win every time. You know what I mean? Like, it's keeping that competitive fire going as well.
That's awesome. How is it managing a relationship from like moving from club to club, moving from South Korea, Japan, Mexico, and obviously America? How are you like managing that?
That was, well, I was lucky. I got a trooper for a wife. You know, she got it. She was straight into it. When we started dating, I was with the Oakland A's, and she had moved back up to Oakland, and I literally got traded to the Astros within 10 days of, you know, really being together. And then, so she moved to Houston, and then the next year I'm in Japan. She moves to Japan.
Wow.
You know, and like in that Houston time, I got traded. So she had to pack up the apartment, put it in while I'm on the road. She had to pack it all up and like get it to Dallas. It was, lucky, you know, that she didn't quite know what she was getting into when it happened. But she's been a rock and been able to, you know, help me at least keep pursuing. I mean, when we were about to have our first son, I was playing in Mexico. And Zika was a big deal, and she couldn't come to see me.
Wow.
And so I went back. I was there for a while. We had our son, and then I had to go back 4 days later to Mexico. You know, and then when the last time when I got kicked out of, I didn't kicked out of America, I overstayed a visa accidentally. Total miscommunication. I had a P1. We won't get into that. But my wife got pregnant with our second child, and I had to come back to Australia and couldn't return to America without a visa. And so I didn't meet my daughter till she was 6 months old. I had to watch the birth on FaceTime. And that takes a serious kind of champion to be able to look after a 2-year-old while being pregnant and, you know, going through all the nuances of being a single mother at the time, you know, without me there to help. You know, it was, you know, I felt real hard that I couldn't be able to be there to help her, but I was literally handcuffed. I had no other way to do it. So she's a trooper. Thank God she's out here now.
Yeah.
Incredible woman.
That's amazing. What's it like with the catcher? Is there a level of a relationship that needs to be established there when you're communicating? You're only seeing a box of him because you're signaling to each other, but you've sort of got to be on the same wavelength.
Oh yeah. I mean, before we go into a series with a team, we'll normally sit down, like at the big league level, we'll say they'll have a room that's like almost like a movie theater kind of, and they'll have their lineup and their bench players and video of them hitting. And we're all sitting in there while our coach is reading down and we'll go over the entire lineup. We'll know exactly who we got. Catchers are in there too. They know it. And yeah, we'll get a game plan of like how we're going to attack these guys, who we're not going to let beat us. Like, who are the hot guys? Who are we going to say, this guy ain't beating us if it comes down to nut cutting time? We're going to put him on base. We're going to pitch to the guy behind him. You know, there's a lot that goes into it. You know, and if you've got a 2-run lead and nobody on base, and that guy comes up, yeah, we'll pitch to him. You can't hit a 2-run home run with nobody on base. So that way then we can attack him in those situations. But, you know, as far as trusting the catchers, I mean, pitchers have their favorites. Like they'll have certain catchers that they prefer, just whether it's how they present their glove, how good they are blocking. If, you know, I've had catchers where I'm just totally, it's not that I'm fighting with them, but they're just not on my page. I'm having to shake a lot. That's annoying, because especially if I'm shaking back to a fastball, because, you know, hitters are kind of, if they see a few shakes, they just go, well, I don't know what he's going to throw now. I'm not going to get beat by the fastball. Like they just go clear the mechanism. I'm sitting heater now. And now I've really got to locate. So, but when you get that catcher that's like, you know, it's poetry. It just feels like you can't go wrong. The trust is there. They trust you. It's a good feeling to have a catcher like that. And, you know, I've had many catches, but probably only 3 or 4 that I've ever felt like that with.
Wow. Yeah. It seems so crucial, especially for you.
Baby, out of here.
It seems so crucial, especially like for your rhythm as well. Having to shake, throws it off completely.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you can use a shake to your advantage too. Like you can use a shake to get back to a pitch that, you know, maybe they're sitting on, because, you know, you'll have your fastball and then you'll have your best off-speed pitch. You'll have your best off-speed pitch, and the hitters know what do you use the most. So if you're making one shake, they're either thinking, okay, he's shaking off the fastball to his number 1 off-speed pitch. You shake 3 or 4 times, you're probably shaking through to a weaker pitch of yours. But if you can use it to get back to your number 1, like it's a head game. I mean, and you've got to let your catcher know that you're willing to shake through every sign to get back to the one he started with, you know?
Yes.
Sometimes you don't want the catcher to put the sign you want straight away, because you're like, I wanted to shake 3 times to get to that. So, you know, it's
back and forth.
There is so much to think about out there. And I feel like when I explain this to some of the kids I coach, their eyes just go, oh, how am I supposed to remember all this? But it's just a feel thing. You get it as you go, as you grow.
I mean, in cricket, I was a bowler, and sometimes when you'll lose your mark, you'll sort of just run through the crease and just do a little U-turn. But you'd use that to your advantage. Sometimes it could be because you're on the back of a long spell and you want just an extra like 20, 30 seconds to recover. Otherwise, sometimes if you're starting off a game, you might do it just to make the guy a little bit more nervous, just to anticipate a little bit longer. So there's little nuances that you can use to your advantage as well. But sometimes when it's not going your way, you feel like you can't get anything together.
That's every sport, I think.
With the Rosen, the scandal that came out early this year, what's your take on that? I mean, that's fascinating to me. Apparently, it's as big as doping. That's what people are sort of talking about.
Oh, you mean the spider tack?
Yes.
Oh yeah, because the rosin is a rosin bag. That's allowed. That's
was that the one giving the grip? Was that the one that you could see the fingerprints?
So rosin bag is there to dry your hands off, to keep your hands. It's kind of like chalk for when you're lifting. You know what I mean? Like,
of course,
something to keep your hands dry, because you don't want to be
sweaty palms.
So like the spider tack, however, that is different. Like as a pitcher myself growing up through, we had, you know, many different forms of, you know, most people use sunscreen and put the rosin on as well, and it'll make it sticky, but it's not sticky. It's just enough to get a grip on the ball. Cause, you know, sometimes you get a ball, it's not even rubbed up. It's brand new out of the wrapper. It is slippery. And, you know, depending if you're playing in like a cold, dry area, I mean, it's really hard to get a grip. We don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to stick anyone in the ear. So that, even pine tar, what they use on the bat, some people use that for grip, but it's not crazy. Spider tack, however, is so sticky that you could literally hold that and the ball would stick to your hand underneath. Like, it's that bad that if you don't throw hard enough, you can't even use it, because you'll throw it into the ground. Like, it is literally that hard. And I've never been able to use that in a game. I've tried it in a bullpen back before it was really came out that it was bad. I knew guys that did it, and I just had to try it in a bullpen just to see if it would do what I wanted to do. And I couldn't even throw a strike with it. Like, it was very awkward. You almost had to not have any pressure on the ball at all. You had to let your hand just rest and just try and get that hand speed for it to go. And you could hear it like Velcro ripping off the hand. Like, it is Yeah, it's crazy. That is absolutely cheating because that'll give you 300 more RPM, which is just more life, later break. You throw 300 more RPM on a curveball, it's going to travel 3 to 5 more feet before it starts its break. Well, a hitter, if it's 10 feet out from home, the brain can't tell the hands where the ball's going to end up by then. You're blind from the ball in that moment. That's why every pitcher's goal is to try and make it break as late as possible so that they don't get information to where to send the barrel. So, yeah, that is 100% cheating. Using that. And a lot of people made a lot of money that, from using that.
I bet. So is it something that had been creeping into the game? Because it doesn't sound like it's something new because...
No, it's been creeping in. Well, that stuff crept in. I don't think I ever saw Spider Tack pre-2012.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Is there anything else that people will sort of use that they use to get an edge? Not necessarily like illegal, but what do people...
The old guys used to spitballs, they use Vaseline. Vaseline for more so to pinch it and slip it out, and it would just give it a weird... I don't even know, man. No one does that anymore. That died. That form died. But and Spider Tack wasn't. I don't think it was around in 12, but similar, like bowler's grip. The stuff 10-pin bowlers use to really spin that bloody big heavy ball.
Yeah,
that was something I think crept in before Spider Tack was developed by a pitcher. So they kind of tried to find the stickiest stuff they could. But yeah, no, I think it got worse and worse. From pine tar was always kind of like the way you could go before it would be cheating. And then after that, because, a hitter uses pine tar to not let go of their bat. How is it not fair that we get to use it on the ball,
Yes.
But at the same token, you're not covering the ball in it. It's literally enough to just feel tack on your fingertips. Well, at least for me, something I just wanted to, not feel like I'm going to throw this half out the back net, because you throw in maximum effort, you want to make sure you got some kind of control over it. And the hitter is more thankful for it too. I wasn't a guy that hit many guys, and they knew that. And so they weren't so uncomfortable in the box against me, unless I deliberately threw one. But I think they could tell when I was making a pitch like that to try and stand them up. I think that they get that vibe that I meant to do that rather than that was an accident, because there's nothing worse than facing a guy that throws really hard and doesn't know where it's going.
Yeah, I bet that would be terrifying. Like coming through at 90 miles an hour and they don't know where it's going. It's like, shit.
Trust me, I've taken one in the side of the year before from a pitcher. I've had to bunt, and this guy threw about 95 mile an hour, and he missed me the first time. And I'm thinking, this is AAA. There's no way he's going to make that mistake again, right? He's a step under the big leagues. And I get closer, thinking, I don't want to be scared here. And then bang, and it just knocked my helmet right off my head. And scariest one I've ever had. I've had a couple hit back at me that were scarier, but that one, I tell you. So if he had been using some sticky stuff, that probably wouldn't have happened. But there's sticky, and then there's just like super glue almost. Like it is crazy.
Yeah.
That Spider Tack stuff is insane.
Something else. Prediction for the World Series.
Braves in 6.
Ooh, let's go. We're going to go into overtime.
Well, that's more of a want. But I think it will. I think it's a chance. I think it's a real chance. I think their pitching is a little better, and the hitting for Houston is really good, but so is Braves. Braves are really good too. So it's going to be an awesome series.
Yeah.
But yeah, Braves. Come on, Braves. You can do it.
We'll go into overtime. We put up a thing on our Instagram with a couple of questions. I've picked 2. I'll read them out to you, and if you want to respond. This is from Max. When did you realize that you sort of made it and had a future in the sport?
Probably. So as a youngster, I never made a state team. Like I was in Victoria. I was kind of late to the game. I didn't make a state team until my last year of under 18s. And rightly so. I don't think I was good enough to make it. Maybe under 16, second year, I was probably close, but wore a failed letter saying you didn't make it, and that really. But once I made that under 18 team, and then I pitched really well, and I made it to the Australian team, I still didn't know if I was that good yet. But once I pitched against like Korea, did really well. Cuba, these teams that I did really well against, I started to believe that, and then, scouts started giving me their card. Once I got over there, though, there was my first outing ever was on a backfield in spring training against the Padres. 2 innings I got to throw, scheduled 2 innings, but I punched out all 6 I faced, like 6 strikeouts in a row. That was how I started my career. And that right there and then, that was me going, this is easy. Because I went from facing guys like men in A-grade club ball, and guys that are in the ABL back then, swinging metal bats, 35-year-olds, and now I'm facing 22-year-olds swinging wood for the first time. So I kind of got that. When you face an old guys with tin bats, you got to pitch in. You cannot pitch away. You don't want to let them get extended. I took that game and pitched into righties and lefties alike, but with wood bats when they're not used to them. And I'm breaking bats. I'm like, it just made pitching so. I felt so nasty as a youngster. Like, until I got up to the show, I didn't lose many games. I didn't lose many at all throughout my career until I got up. The numbers were like Nintendo numbers until I got up the first time. Then I kind of realized some real failure at the big league level for the first time, and that really smashed my ego a little bit. But yeah, that moment when I struck out those 6 in a row in that March of 2001 in the backfield, and that was when I realized this is where I'm going to do it.
Wow. And this is from Justin. What was the highlight of your professional career?
Oh, there's a couple moments in the career that really stood out for me. Like, obviously,
sounds like that Padres moment could be up there too. Just that realizing,
that doesn't sniff some of the other ones. That doesn't compare. No, pitching for Team Australia in the WBC in 2009 against Cuba in Mexico City. I was pitching against Aroldis Chapman, and I went deep into that game on a 70 pitch count. Like, we weren't allowed to pitch more than that or something. I went into the 6th or something and came out winning. That was a big game, really gave us, and we'd beaten Mexico the day before. So it really gave us a chance to get into the second round. We ended up losing that game late, unfortunately. And then I think 2012, I had 2 games like that. I had one against Clayton Kershaw, where we went toe-to-toe, 8 innings apiece. We gave up 3 hits each, 1 run each. And I mowed that lineup down that day, and that really made me think I belonged in the big leagues. But then my favorite game was the last game I pitched for the Oakland A's in the end of the season. If I'm breaking it down, we were 5 games out with 6 games to play. Again, and the Texas Rangers were in first. We swept the Mariners. They got swept by the Angels. All of a sudden, the last 3 games of the year, we're playing against the Rangers. We win the first game, which secured the wild card, and I had to pitch the next day after we'd just been spraying champagne.
Wow.
And this was to tie them. Now, we hadn't been in first place all year. 161st game of the year, and against the Matt Harrison, an all-star that year, and I went 6 innings, 1 run, and we win that game, tie them, and the next day we win again to win the West. And so that was that game right there. And I got boat raced by them the week before. I mean, they freaking crushed me the week before. 5 runs in the first inning. I got lifted, and I had to face the media that whole week saying, what are you going to do different?
Yeah.
I'm hearing Bob Melvin on there getting asked, are you going to stick with Blackley if it's like this situation? And hearing him say, yeah, we're going to stick by him, that helped. But Grant Balfour really, before I went down, he grabbed me by the shoulders, looked me in the eye. And I don't know if I can swear on here, can I?
Yeah, you can. I have all day.
Oh, so. All right. Well, my kids are not around. Right? Okay. He just looked me in the eye and he goes, show him your fucking balls. Show him how big your fucking balls are. And it just had me jacked up. And I went down there. I mean, I think I was on 92 in the bullpen. Like, I was warming up throwing fuzz balls. And I went out there and just, the first inning struck out Josh Hamilton, and the crowd went bananas. And I felt the chills come over me as I'm walking off. Like, best feeling. Oh man, I'll never feel it again, unfortunately. But so cool.
Wow, that's awesome. I love hearing that. Thanks so much for coming on to get on today, Travis. Where can people follow you?
So Instagram, the Jersey Collector, DTD.
What is that? What's the Jersey Collector?
So that is just because I've played on so many teams. I have a lot of jerseys.
That's great.
Yeah, I've played on a lot. It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've been in 10 different organizations, but yeah, on Twitter it's just Travis _Blackley. But yeah, they're the 2 I run. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on today. It was great to
Thank
talk to
you.
you.
No worries. Thanks
Thanks
for having me.
guys.